Perspective is one of many fundamental aspects of visual art that is important for any artist to learn in order to improve their work. It's an essential part of making visually appealing creations that can be applied to any artwork to provide a sense of depth and realism. In today's video, you'll learn what it is, be taught how it's done, and you'll see it applied in a drawing. Before I teach you how to do it, you need to understand what perspective is in visual art. While it's not necessary for every piece, perspective is an extremely important technique used in most art to portray three-dimensional shapes and figures on a two-dimensional surface, such as your piece of paper or computer screen. It adds realism to your art by making things appear closer to or further away from the viewer, creating the illusion of depth. Take this square I've drawn, for example, and notice how it looks flat. This is an example of a drawing with no perspective. Nothing about it indicates to the viewer that this shape is more than a two-dimensional square, so they have no way to tell if that's not the case. Now take this cube and notice how by changing the direction at which the previous square was being viewed on the paper, the viewer can easily tell that this is a three-dimensional shape. This is a simple way to show you how perspective can influence the way we perceive an artwork, which can be applied in ways far more complicated and intricate than the one you've just seen. Now that you have an understanding of what perspective is, it's time for you to learn the techniques to apply it in your artworks. There are some key elements of perspective that will help you to do so, the first being what is called the horizon line. The horizon line is the separation between ground and sky in your drawings. It's not always completely visible or even visible at all, but it's there and everything in your drawings relates to it. The horizon line is the eye level of your viewers, and it changes based on where the image you're depicting is captured from in its imaginary three-dimensional space. What this means is that it can be drawn anywhere in your artwork. It's completely up to you, the artist. See here how the placement of the horizon line on your page changes the perceived height at which the viewer is in your image. It shows the viewer where they are in relation to the scene and helps them to understand everything else you draw in relation to it. The next key element of perspective that you can use to implement perspective into your artworks is vanishing points. Vanishing points are always placed on the horizon line, and they are where the parallel lines in your drawings come together and meet. Implementing these again adds to that illusion of depth. Notice how the edges of this road appear to converge together as if they're getting further and further from the viewer? The point at which they seem to touch each other is a vanishing point. This is an example of a single point perspective, where all the vanishing lines lead towards one point. There are other types of perspectives for vanishing points too, the most common being 2- and 3-point perspective. 2-point perspective has, you guessed it, two vanishing points. It's typically used to show the corner of an object, so it's useful for drawing buildings or interiors, and other geometrical things. To apply it, draw the corner of your object and have any parallel lines coming off either side of that corner recede towards the vanishing point on their corresponding side. Ensure that any other parallel lines receding from the viewer also converge on one of the vanishing points. Just note that the closer your vanishing points are to each other, the more the objects in your drawing will be distorted, which is perfectly fine as long as it's intentional. 3-point perspective simply adds a third vanishing point. Similarly to 2-point perspective, it's useful for drawings of geometric things like buildings. It can be applied to illustrate a dramatic perspective of a tall skyscraper, for example, with the third vanishing point creating the illusion of the building's height, as all the parallel vertical lines converge on a single point in the sky high above the drawing's horizon line. Now that you understand the basics of perspective, let's let you see it in use. I'll draw a building for you here to provide to you a simple example of what perspective adds to an artwork. And there you have it. Here's my drawing. You can see how I used what was covered in this video and how those things add to the three-dimensional feel of this piece. I hope you guys found this video helpful and can incorporate these basic techniques into your art as well. Perspective is such an important thing for artists to learn, so make sure you practice and keep being creative.